Yes, we developed clue points with GSK vaccines in Belgium, and we were funded actually by the Belgian government to do this development. The system that we developed was actually based on a long series of research papers that we developed over the years. And so clue points is really an embodiment of all these ideas, which really consist of looking at the data from a statistical point of view and trying to make sure that the data from each site that participates in a clinical trial are consistent with the data from the other side. So the idea is rather simple, but the sophistication of the engine is actually rather deep. And you can't do this in a trivial manner. You can't just look at the data superficially and find problems inside. You have to use sophisticated statistical modules before you can detect data that are really suspicious, as opposed to just random variations in the data. So that is the basis for clue points, is to compare each site with all the other sites in the study based on statistical algorithms. So indeed, we developed these algorithms and then implemented the solution at GSK Vaccines, which is based in Belgium. And in fact, the findings of the first runs of clue points were really amazing to both GSK Vaccines and ourselves, because it is surprising that in most studies, you will find centers that have strange patterns in the data, which have not been noticed either by data management or by clinical operations. And so the added value of clue points is to actually look at the study data and make sure that the data are consistent throughout all the sites. It's a very simple idea, but it works really well to find problems. And so the initial findings at GSK, I can give you one, for example. This is typical of the findings we had. There was one study that GSK had conducted. It was a vaccine trial. And in fact, that study had been conducted in various countries. And in one of the countries, a lot of thermometers was miscalibrated, such that the temperature read on these thermometers was a little too high. And they knew about the problem, but they didn't tell us. And when we ran clue points on the data from this clinical trial, the sites in Spain, that the country in which this lot was miscalibrated was Spain, all the sites in Spain began to show up as being slightly different from the rest of the sites. And this was because of the miscalibrated temperature. So the value, again, of clue points is to look at the totality of the data in such a way that even very small deviations, for example, in the body temperature, if you read that temperature often enough and on enough patients, in fact, that will show up as an abnormality, even though no data management check would fire and no monitoring visit would see this. So this is the kind of finding that really was exciting, I think, to both GSK and to clue points, because it showed the power of the engine.